Hey everyone, I finished watching the second to last episode of Power Rangers Wild Force, The End of the Power Rangers Part 1. I really love this episode. It's a really great finale. And, let's see, I've watched, in, order, Mighty Morphin all the way up through Wild Force now, so I'm almost to the end of the Saban era, the original Saban era. And I can remember all the different, finales we've had up till now. Back in Mighty Morphin, they didn't really have season finales because the show was made so quickly and they knew that they were coming back for another season. So there really wasn't a huge finale until the very end of Mighty Morphin. At the end of it, yeah, at the very end of Mighty Morphin, and then at the end of Alien Rangers. After that, let's see, Zeo didn't really get a finale for whatever reason. It just kind of had another episode, and then the Turbo movie skipped over a year's worth of stuff happening. Sure, why not? And then Turbo actually did have a really amazing finale, Chase into Space. Power Rangers in Space had one of the all-time best Power Ranger finales. Lost Galaxy was amazing. Lightspeed was freaking awesome. I love Time Force. And, Wild Force is probably my least favorite of some of the finales, but I still think it's really good and definitely better than what we would get later on, actually. There are some parts of this that kind of remind me of a Disney finale. I feel like if this was a Disney season, like a complete Disney season, not just Disney acquiring it and airing the last batch of episodes, uh, I think this probably would have been the last episode, and the ending would have been the Rangers pull some magic thing out of their butts and they destroy Master Org, and happy ending, but they don't get their powers back. So anyway, onward to the actual summary of the episode. The Rangers are celebrating their victory after the last episode because, as far as they know, they've won. There's no more Master Org. Jindrax and Toxica are off doing whatever. But then we get a bittersweet moment where the Rangers think about what this means. That, yeah, the mission is over with. They're all going to split up and go back to their normal lives, and this kind of thing they've grown accustomed to, hanging out in the Animarium with Princess Shayla and the other Rangers, all that's going to come to an end. At least the way they know it. So then, as they're thinking about their future, we see back in Master Org's lair, we see this green light emanating from under the rubble, and then poof, it's the Org heart in full CGI glory like the last episode. It's survived. Oh, and also, uh, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. Um, let's see. Shayla calls the Rangers. The magic fountain thing splashed up, and she sensed the biggest Org she's ever experienced. And then the Rangers gather in the city to find Master Org, but he's transformed. His face is all silver, and he looks really weird. And then he tears his robes away, revealing his entire body has become that of an Org. It's a really cool moment. And, let's see. One of the really weird things that's always been weird to me ever since I was a kid and I remember seeing this was his body has elements of other orgs. Like there's Mandalok and Nazor, there's a little bit of Retinax in there, and then bizarrely, there's a lot of Jindrax and Toxica on one arm. Why does he look so much like Jindrax? I remember thinking, when I found out more about the Sentai and I was seeing some of Gao Ranger, I was like, oh, okay, so he looks like this because of something in Gao Ranger, right? But I'm trying to remember, I haven't watched Gao Ranger in a couple of years, so my mind is kind of fuzzy on this, but from what I remember, this monster kind of just comes right out in Gao Ranger without, a lot of connection to Jindrax or Toxica's counterparts. Oh, Jindrax was called Yabaiba, I think, in Yabaiba. Something. I don't remember. Back to Power Rangers. Um, the Rangers are fighting him, but they can't match his power. And then Master Org grows, and then Animus appears to help fight Master Org to help the Rangers. And then Shayla comes over and she's like, Rangers, we have to retreat to the Animarium. And then Merrick's like, no, I can't leave. I left all those years ago and Animus died because of me. And so then he calls his Predazord and they're battling Master Org together. And the Rangers don't help because, I don't know. Maybe they figure, Animus probably knows what he's doing. Let him do this on his own. Anyway, turns out that was a bad decision, because Master Org is too strong and destroys their Zords. Merrick's Morpher disappears, and Animus has reverted to his human form Kite, which, as much as I don't really like what they did with Kite and Animus, this is a cool thing, and I am really happy that they acknowledge Animus and his human form Kite in the finale. So Merrick takes Kite up to the Animarium, and oh yeah, and this is a funny thing that happens right before that. The Animarium itself flies down to Earth and smacks Master Org away, so that Merrick and Kite can escape. It reminds me of earlier in Wild Force when Toxica's trying to capture Princess Shayla, and then all of a sudden Princess Shayla can fight back. Like, you can do something? That's kind of how... I don't know, I guess... Is there like a switch or something that goes like, okay, the Rangers have all the power. No, now it's Shayla who has some power. And turn it again, and it's like, oh, the Animarium itself can do something useful. Okay. So then... let's see. Merrick takes Kite up to the Animarium, and Kite dies. Wow. And as far... I'm trying to remember, because I haven't watched the last episode of Wild Force in quite some time. I don't think he comes back. I remember there's a vague implication for Animus to come back. I know there's other Wild Zords that come back to life, but... I don't think Animus does. I think, yeah, he's dead for the long run. Bye. And it's funny, as much as I don't like Animus or Kite, I did like Kite at the beginning. It was what they did with him later that really ticked me off, but it's really cool how this episode, even though Kite and Animus aren't very good characters at this point, they're still able to pull off a pretty touching scene of Kite dying and telling the Rangers, remember, you're the guardians of the earth, and then he dissipates into gold light. And maybe it turns out he never died, and the Green Morphin Master was like teleporting him away somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually retcon that in somewhere. So then, this is a really cool thing. Master Org is on the Animarium. He turns into a little tornado thing, boom, lands on the Animarium, and it is so surreal to see this big hulking monster on the Animarium, which we don't really see this part of the Animarium. There's this like big field out there, and one by one he strikes down all the Zords. Like a slasher villain, just pew, 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 all gone. And what makes it even more disturbing is the Rangers, their little animal Zord crystals shatter, just poof. Wow. Anyway, let's see, the Rangers all gather together, they're using their wild Zords, but then, even that's not enough, Master Org takes them all out, the Rangers' morphers all disappear, and then, Master Org takes his sword and then slams it into the Animarium itself, and the Animarium is falling. He's tornadoed himself back down to Earth or whatever, and that's where the... Oh yeah, and then there's a bunch of putrids popping up all over Earth. Remember those things? No, not really, because they barely showed up at all. I was kind of surprised how little the putrids actually do show up in Wild Force. But anyway, to be continued. Freaking awesome. Really cool episode. Great finale, or lead up to the actual finale, part 1, this leads into part 2, freaking awesome, love this, there's so much that they do right here, like the stakes all build up perfectly, the Rangers are torn down to their lowest point possible, they have no Zords, no Morphers, they're on their own, Shayla probably can't help, Merrick can't help, the Animarium's fallen down, Master Org is giant and took out all their Zords, and uh, I really love to see like this much uh like happening in an episode. It kind of makes me disappointed that in recent seasons we don't really get stuff like this. Like, it kind of ended with the Disney seasons. The Disney seasons would kind of go far, but not quite this far. The Neo Saban seasons didn't really go very far at all. Samurai just felt too safe. Like, the stakes never felt super high. Uh, Megaforce was weird. Dino Charge didn't really get a good finale at all. It had this bizarre, like, now we're in another dimension thing. What? Ninja Steel, I don't even remember what the ending to Ninja Steel was like. Ninja Steel was lame. Beast Morphers I thought sucked. Dino Fury, I've seen the spoilers. I know how Dino Fury ends. It's definitely a lot going on. It's pretty wacky, but I wouldn't say the stakes are high. I wouldn't say it has the tension or the emotion that this Wild Force episode has. So, anyway, thinking back to when I was little, this episode didn't really affect me at all because for whatever reason, when I was a little kid watching Wild Force, I didn't really have that much of an emotional connection to it. But I can definitely see, like, if there were kids super into Wild Force, they'd probably find all the Zords getting struck down one by one to be pretty upsetting. And I can imagine a lot of little kids crying, seeing that happening. And, let's see, I really like Master Org's final form, and I really love that he's still wearing the robes that he wore throughout the rest of the season as Master Org. It helps to really connect the Master Org we know with this final form of Master Org. And one of the things that it really reminds me of is Flurious in Operation Overdrive. He also had like a completely different final form at the end of the season, but it didn't really work there. Oh, and it's also like Trakina in Trakina's Revenge. She transforms into this big dragon thing, and there's no connection. When Trakina turns into the big dragon thing, it doesn't look anything like her. The only, like, connection... Like, it doesn't even, like, mean anything. Like, why is Trakina a dragon now? And in Overdrive, when Flurious transforms, he's some thing that doesn't really resemble himself at all. But Master Org, when he goes into his final form, it actually does look like him. It resembles him. And that thing with the robe just helps cement that, yeah, this is Master Org. It's not some new original character that we just pulled out of our butts. It's the guy you know. And it helps build a connection to this character. I really like that, and I wish it's something that other seasons had tried a little harder to do. Let's see. The other thing in this episode that's really cool that I really like is the Org Heart when it comes up through the ground, and then later the Rangers see Master Org has resurrected or whatevered himself. It reminds me a lot of Cardiatron and the Hatchosaurus from back in Mighty Morphin. Cardiatron was also a big heart thing, and unless the Rangers destroyed that, then Hatchosaurus wouldn't die. Every time they destroyed Hatchosaurus, the Cardiatron would bring all the parts back together, except with horns now. Anyway, that's just a funny little thing I thought about that, and I think that's about it I have to say for this episode, so that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.